here.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Otherworldlyculture.com presents Dead On Movie Reviews.
Salutations and mutilations, you're listening to Otherworldly Culture Presents Dead On Movie Reviews. Tonight, we will present horror movie reviews and lively debate here on otherworldlyculture.com and on future select Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can join our live chat at that time by clicking on live shows link on the otherworldlyculture.com website. I'm your host, Tim Kretschmann, coming to you from the land of lakes and landfills, beautiful and smelly Muskego, Wisconsin. It's my honor to introduce the Faculty of Fear panel that is presenting tonight's lectures. We start hailing from the Motor City, Detroit. Michael Cieslak is a lifetime reader and writer of horror, mystery, and speculative and fiction. He has
the dark stuff.
He has served as an officer and a gentleman in the Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers and is the editor of the Eerie Tales anthologies. Michael is the editor-in-chief of Dragon's Roost Press, and his works have appeared in a number of collections, including DOA Extreme Horror, Dead Science, Vicious Verses, and Reanimated Rhymes. I took those slower because I usually skip over those, but this time I couldn't say speculative. All right. And the collaborative steampunk novel, Army of Brass. Check him out at thedragonsroost.net. Next, also from Michigan, we have Peggy Christie, and she has written books like Hell Hath No Fury, Dark Doorways, and has contributed to the short story collection Eerie Tales, Myths, and Mayhem. You can check her out at themonkeyisin.com. That's Peggy Christie.
Hey, yeah, Peggy.
Peggy Christie in the house.
And last but not least, Tracey de Leon has been in over 11 films, a good friend of the show and numerous appearances here, and it's a thrill to have her on the show again tonight. She is the Denison diva of the disturbing, who frequently partakes in films quite unnerving. She always gives you the straight dope and goes into every film with a glimmer of hope. She is afraid to go ankles deep into a flick and calls out douchetards for being a prick. Now it's my pleasure to set out eyes all upon the final panelist tonight, Tracey de Leon.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I love it.
They should not
Tim,
leave me with
happening?
a rhyming dictionary laying around. All right. Well, I think we got a great show lined up for you. This is one of these shows where every single movie, except of course the one I'm doing, every single one of these movies I've heard of, and I've been curious as to if they're any good or not. So I'm taking score along with all you at home. So let's get things started. And, yes, I worked this out before. I am going to go to Peggy first this time, because I think I've gone to you, Mike, a number of times recently. So, here we go. Peggy, what have you been watching over there?
Yeah, my old lady glasses. I think you're actually going to be happy with this, Tim. It'll be a first. I watched the 1981 horror film called Hospital Massacre, is also known as X-Ray. Actually, both titles work, I think, in a sense. The basic idea of the film is a woman goes to the hospital just to pick up some just standard routine test results and ends up getting trapped there, and she can't get out because there is a mad serial killer doctor running through the hospital that's keeping her there, and he'll kill anybody that gets in the way of his plan. That's kind of the basic premise.
Okay.
And I wanted to pick a movie that had like a Valentine connection, because Valentine's Day is next week. So
It's what?
so there's only two like really basic things, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the movie. It just happens to take place on Valentine's Day. Like the opening is a the main character is Susan, so it's her as a young girl. I want to say like 10, and her friend, I can't remember his name and I don't really care, are playing with an electric train, and there's this creepy kid, Harold, who's their age, who's staring in at them through the window. So he leaves a homemade Valentine's Day card on the porch for her. So she goes to get it. She shows it to her friend. They laugh about it, crumple it up, while Harold's looking at them enraged from the window. She leaves the room for a minute, hears a little bit of noise, goes back out, and her friend is now, coat hooks, the big coat stands with the hooks.
Yeah.
Her friend is hanging off of that with the hook through his chin.
Nice.
And I'm like, and that is how it starts. And that's,
wait a minute, Peggy.
and that's absolute shit from the get-go. Okay.
How would you hook somebody up?
There's no way that is even possible. I'm sorry. It's unbelievable. And already I hate it. So. But that's how the movie opens. So in a way, it's kind of a strong opening, even as unbelievable as it is and unfathomable and no fucking way. But it's a strong opening. Okay. And then you fast forward 19 years. And this is when Susan is a grown woman and she's going to the hospital, and it is on Valentine's Day. Okay. So that's the only Valentine's Day connection. There's no really anything else that it has to do with, sort of. It's kind of like the killer motivation, but yeah, and I'm probably going to give spoilers because I don't want anyone else to watch this film.
Yeah, but it's got Barbie Benton in it.
I'm just giving you a heads up.
It's got Barbie Benton in it. Does she at least get completely naked in this?
She does.
Okay.
She does.
Because there's no other reason to have her in your movie.
Right, yeah, I mean, yeah, as pretty as she is and as a rockin' bod as she's got, even that can't save.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. It's, I have just a list of everything that's so wrong with this movie. The acting is total crap. Editing is terrible and choppy and so amateurish. There are about 114 red herrings that you're supposed to be like, oh, maybe it's that guy. Oh, maybe it's that guy. Oh, it could be that one. It could be, by the 67th one, you're like, who gives a shit? Just tell me what's going on. It's so dumb. It's so ridiculous. And it's funny because I actually have watched this movie a long time ago. So I did remember who the killer was, but I'd forgotten everything else. And now I know why.
You were flying the race head was going. It's like, I need to forget this. Yeah,
it's just gone. And it's like the music is overly dramatic. Everything is, because there's so many red herrings, every little action of every person is taken as a threat. So it's like, even in her nude scene, she's gone into the hospital and the killer has replaced all of her x-rays and her test results with fake ones, or, like they're inconclusive, so we have to do more tests. Mm-hmm. So she's going in to do more tests. And you think, okay, she's going to get like an MRI, some blood work, CT scan. No, see that with the fabric she's changing behind the screen? Yeah, that's the beginning of the nude scene. The doctor's standing there. She's backlit, getting nude, or in her hospital gown, comes out to the table, and he immediately oppresses her. I'm like, what's the fucking point?
What's the point?
And then he's, kind of doing this for about 10 seconds, and then he has her lay down, and he starts at her toes, and moves all the way up to her head. And it takes 15 minutes.
Well, you gotta do that, though.
Exactly. I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
But it makes no sense. It's absolutely illogical. This would never happen. It's like,
as a kid that grew up in the 70s, I remember her on Fantasy Island.
Oh, yeah.
And she was... They were... doing a takeoff of the Playboy Bunny, but she was like the whatever rooster, and she had this ridiculous like rooster tail on all the time. It was the most ridiculous thing. It was so 70s. I just found my Fantasy Island videos recently, and I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And
Well,
you're
this
saying
is
this would
the
erase that
one.
beautiful memory for me?
She's got the great feathered hair still. I mean, this is 1981, so it's very 70s adjacent.
Oh, yeah.
The 80s haven't really come into themselves
the
yet.
80s
You know,
start,
it's like,
I've explained this to many people. The 80s start when Rick Springfield released his album and E.T. came out. It's somewhere in that range. That's when the 80s actually start.
I would believe, I think any decade, like around like the third or fourth year is when things kind of start coming into
That's when it settles in. The decade, you know, at first it's kind of finding its seat and kind of shifting its weight around. And by the second or third year, see, I always say Rick Springfield because I think that's where the new wave music really started to become popular, was right when Rick Springfield came out. And it was shortly after Rick Springfield that the first rap thing came out with Sugar Hill Gang. And I always say E.T. because I cannot think of a movie that was more emblematic that the 80s had arrived.
Okay.
So I have a movie start and a music start.
Okay. Yeah, well, this is very much, I think it is stylistically still very 70s. You know, the leisure suits, the makeup, the hair and all, it is still very 70s. But the music, like, it's not like an original soundtrack would be like indicative of the decade that this was all like overly dramatic. Like, think The Omen, that Latin choral music, that sharp, hard, very staccato, very like you're trying to emphasize something really, really bad. But it's like, no, he's touching her foot. That's not scary. I'm like, what? But she's in such a panic mode at this point. Everything everybody does is a threat.
Well,
so it's like,
was this movie Grindhouse and shown at movies and at drive-ins, or was this direct-to-video?
I have no idea.
I would think this was Grindhouse in '83.
Yeah.
I think it was later in the decade that the direct-to-video thing started.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up, but it's just...
I think you should spend more time watching it again. I think there's a need for you to review it.
Watching, like, when you get through the whole thing, and it's like, and you get through all this ridiculous stuff. It's like her boyfriend's, like, waiting for her to come back out, and she's been in there it's nighttime now. And he's asleep in the car as if nothing. It's like, oh, I just fell asleep for like 15 minutes. It's like, you can't tell me that like an ambulance or a cop, somebody didn't come up to you, parked in front of the hospital to be like, dude, wake up, go find a parking spot somewhere. It's like, and every doctor treats everyone with disdain, which I know sometimes there are doctors who do that, but it's like, when they're all acting like they're suspicious, every single medical professional, I'm like, and then how conveniently all the hallways are empty when anything bad happens. I'm like, where'd all the patients go? Where's all the staff? I'm like, what? This doesn't make any sense. It's all these little tiny details.
It costs money to have extras, Peggy.
Well, and it was actually filmed in an abandoned hospital, so it's not like they really had to. Obviously, their budget was very low. But anyway, but there's no way certain things would happen. It's like Barbie, for some reason, she carries around her lighter with her. So when she's hiding from the killer, she's behind one of those like fabric screens.
Right.
So here's the screen. She's behind it. She drops her lighter, so it falls out here. The killer's walking this way as she's sticking her foot out, trying to grab, and he doesn't see her. I'm like, no fucking way. Bullshit.
But they already paid for the fabric screen for the nude scene.
I was like,
so it was already there.
No, but the final, no pun intended, nail in the coffin is that the final boss battle, when she finally confronts the Mad Doctor and finds out who he is, he has taken her from her room where she was strapped down and into like a abandoned surgery or something, takes her off the gurney and puts her on another one. She is not strapped down, but she just lies there and waits for him. Like, she's laying there terrified, like, oh, I can't move. I'm like, honey, you're not strapped down. Kick him in the balls and run like hell. I'm like, why are you just sitting there? It made absolutely no sense.
Well,
Everything about this was
now was she nude this time as well?
No, she was not nude at this point. She had her little hospital gown.
And she was probably confused what she was doing with her clothes on.
Maybe. I don't know. I think the nude scene was like about halfway through.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
have to check Mr. Skin to get the actual time code. Because it's probably the only part of this movie I want to see.
And apparently the whole, like, when they were filming that scene, like, the whole set was just packed with people. I'm like, well, of course it was.
Yeah, of course that's going to happen.
You fucking weirdos.
What are you talking about? That's
Oh,
good
like
times.
you wouldn't have been there too, Peggy.
Good
What's that?
times.
Said you would have been there too.
Probably, to be honest, because she had a really nice body. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah, she was the playmate of the 70s. She was everywhere. She was everywhere. Yeah, she did a lot of guest shots on Fantasy Island and Love Boat. I remember that, and I remember my parents trying to explain to me who she was. And it's like, well, she's an actress, I guess, because she's on TV. But what is she famous for? She has a really nice smile.
Well, this is true. This is true.
I think she was the girlfriend of Hef at that particular time. Yeah,
I think so, for a while. Yeah, you're right, Tim.
Yeah, right. I've been deep diving on 70s culture, watching the old Battle of the Network Stars and avoiding the Olympics to a certain extent. I'm like, I want to watch real games, watch the tug of war out on the beach. Is it grading time, Peggy?
It is grading time.
Okay, here it comes out come on, there we go. There's the report card. I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna just put my guess. Is that what you're gonna give it? No. Okay.
Genius. No. I'm going to give this one a big old fat F.
Really? You went full force on this one.
Complete failure in every aspect.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
I am shocked and
I'm
dismayed.
sorry. Even Barbie Benton's boobs aren't worth it.
A lot of people say that sometimes. They say even Barbie Benton's boobs. Yeah. Wow. I'm actually a little dumbfounded. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen you give out an F before.
I haven't.
I was going through the list in my head. I'm like, I don't think she's ever done that. Well, great. Finally. About time. All right. Now, I have to make the choice. Is it going to be Mike or Tracy?
Oh, my gosh. Dum.
Okay, Tracy seems ready. We better go over there while she's still awake. Let's see. There we go.
Oh, hey.
Tracy, what have you been watching?
I've been watching The Ritual.
The
It is
Ritual.
a UK-based film that was put out in 2017.
Okay.
Oh, you said 2018, but I think it was 2017.
It was one of those.
One of them. So it starts off with a group of 5 childhood friends, and they're in a bar discussing where their next adventure is going to be. And it's normally party places like, Amsterdam and shit like that, because they're in the UK.
Right.
One guy is just like, let's go on a hike. Let's go to Sweden and take a guy's hiking thing and just go hiking through Sweden or wherever they were. And something happens after they leave the bar. A couple guys go into a liquor store, and it's just 2 of the friends out of the 5. And sadly, one dies. He gets attacked in there from robbers. So they go like 6 months later, and 6 months later, they're in Sweden hiking. And, oh, God, they decide they're not going to go on the trail. They want to take a shortcut. So they take a shortcut through a forest. And, well, the title is The Ritual, so you can imagine what's going on throughout the time that they get through the forest. It's kind of like better cinematography from Blair Witch.
Okay.
But they end up
well, this isn't found footage, though, is it, Tracy?
What?
Is this found footage?
What do you mean found footage?
It isn't where they're carrying the cameras.
Oh,
This
no,
is
no, no,
like
no, no.
in a,
This
like a real movie.
got a DP. They
Okay.
definitely they paid a
Yeah.
DP because that's really well shot. It's shot really well. Really
Okay.
well.
Okay.
So it starts raining and they start seeking shelter, and it's dark, and they come across this creepy cabin, and they get into the cabin, and along the way in some of the trees are carved these, I don't know, symbols. I guess we could call them runes, whatever they are.
Okay.
And they break into this cabin, and there's these runes hanging all over. And then they find upstairs, and upstairs is like a temple to this thing. I don't know. It's made of hay. It wasn't scary to me at all.
Okay.
So throughout the night, they start having nightmares about whatever it is they're scared of, or whatever it is that haunts them, or whatever they did wrong. I guess that's what this creature does to people. It gives them different things to see in their life, and then it attacks them. And how it attacks them is pretty creepy. I'm not going to give that up because it's pretty creepy. That'd be a big old spoiler.
Okay.
But in the end, you see the creature, and the creature did not scare me at all, man. It looked like a giant cockroach. When it stood up, it wasn't scary at all. But what it was is it's a ritual, and there's a witch thing, cockroach thing, that has human people find people for it to feed on. Kind of like, the slaughtering of whatever it is that people do at rituals like that. I don't know.
Okay.
So they slaughter humans that get lost in the forest because they decided to take a shortcut. And in the end, only one friend ends up surviving. The rest die horrifically.
Wow.
Yes.
Isn't that a spoiler?
No, because you don't know which friend.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking because I know you don't like giving away secrets, Tracy.
No. If it's a bad film, I'll give it all up, like Peggy. But this one was pretty good, so.
And this is a Netflix. I think this is a Netflix exclusive from what I could see out on the interwebs.
It was based off, I think his name is Adam Neville. He wrote a book called The Ritual, and they based it off that. I know a guy wrote the screenplay for it, but I can't remember his name.
But isn't Adam Neville that guy that sings real high? You don't know much.
They're the same name, but it's not the same.
No.
That was pretty good, Mike.
He's got some good songs now.
All right. Is it grading time, Tracy?
Oh my gosh, that's quick. I guess so, Tim. Let's do it.
Well, I wasn't sure. You sounded like you were trailing off toward grading, and we need like a symbol or something that we flash up that it's time for the grading.
Let's get it. I'm going to give it an A.
An A? Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, because it's I.
Okay.
I enjoyed the movie too. I thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was
been
good.
hearing
it
that.
made the creature a little bit scarier. I mean, it was leading up to it, with like the hands. It made you believe it was just this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you see it, and you're like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, A.
All right. Yeah, I think Exler also gave it a good score one time on the show.
Oh,
so,
he did it?
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, there's only so many of these movies out there, and when you see a good one, you want to tell people, or you see a really horrid one, you want to warn them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most movies are somewhere in between, and you forget about them about 5 minutes after you stopped watching. Okay. Mike, are you ready over there?
I am ready over here. This was like...
Here we go. Zippity hoo-ha. There he is. What have you been watching?
Oh, this was actually a nice lead-in because there are some parallels with both of the previous reviews and the movie I watched. Kind of like Peggy picked something for Valentine's Day. I figure since most of the U.S. is digging out of the first snowpocalypse of 2022, be the perfect time to review a movie where you've got some scientists that are in an isolated, kind of frozen wasteland, and they have to deal with something that they're not prepared for. And watched Blood Glacier. Do you think I was talking about something else with John Carpenter? No. Blood Glacier, which was interesting because it's one of those movies where you turn it on and it says The Station 2013. And I thought, crap, did I hit the wrong button? No, this movie's got like 4 titles. But had any more titles, it would be
really?
movie from the 80s from Italy. You've got Blood Glacier. You've got The Station.
Hold on just a second. That's interesting because when I searched for Peggy's, I would say it was 50-50. I was finding X-Ray and I was finding, what is it, Hospital Massacre or Massacre or a Hospital? I can't remember which. But I was getting about 50-50 on the hits. With this thing, I only found Blood Glacier. I didn't see any reference to alternate titles.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it
scarier than the one that was on mine.
Yours was always Ritual. In fact, the problem with yours, Tracy, was there was some other Ritual movie. And I was having a dickens of a time figuring out sometimes, okay, is this from that movie? I had to keep looking, and I kept saying, okay, does this look possibly Swedish? Okay, so back to Blood Glacier. By the way, the poster that I have up there is one of about 5 posters I've seen for this movie. And that there was plenty of.
Yeah, so you've got Blood Glacier, you've got The Station. My favorite is Blood Glacier, which I'm pretty sure is German for Blood Glacier. And then Glacius, which is the name of the station. And I think the reason they didn't use that much is because no one would understand that was the name of the station. Okay. And like Peggy's, it starts out with a death, but in this case, not really. We open, loud music, and there's just a body lying on the floor. And kind of torn up room. There's a cute dog. And then someone's like pounding on the door, and the dog starts barking, and then the body on the floor gets up, and you find out he's not dead. He's just passed out drunk. And this is Yannick. He is going to be our store brand R.J. McCready for this film. And
discount shelf.
It's the 3-liter bottle. And he is an interesting character because this movie walks kind of a weird line where like 75% of the time it's going pretty serious, but then the other 25% of the time you're like, was like the original script kind of like a Shaun of the Dead? Was it like walking that horror comedy line? Because there's some really funny lines in it, but I feel like it may have started out being more comedy and they kind of stripped some of that out.
Now, was this made in America? And
this was made in Austria.
Okay, it was foreign language. I thought I saw that. It is.
Unlike last week, this one is a dub, and we will get back to that.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, mark that down because Peggy's are one that's always in charge of subtitles and dubbing.
They're trying to get Yannick up. He's the technician that's working with these 3 scientists, whose names are
Yakko,
I don't
Wacko,
know his name being said, but it's spelled like tinnitus.
Tinnitus?
Tinnitus and Falk, who are completely interchangeable, except Falk gets beat up more. And then Tanya, I'm sorry, not Tanya, but Brita, who I just referred to as bitch scientist throughout my entire notes, because that was her character note, was she was there to just give Yannick crap the whole time.
Okay.
I thought it was a little overboard.
Basically,
kind of see. you've got these three scientists, and Yannick is the technician that keeps everything running. Okay. And when he's not doing technician stuff, he's just drunk off of his ass. Like the first scene, he walks in to find out what this alarm is. He doesn't bother to put pants on. He just walks out in his boxer shorts across the Austrian Alps to the station. It's actually really funny. There are some lines that kind of struck me as weird. We first realize what a pain in the butt Bertha is going to be. It's just yelling, "Restrain your dog! Restrain your dog!" Like, he's a chocolate lab. What's he going to do? Mouth you? Come on. Back off.
For you, his toy. Come on.
He's going to slobber on you. So, Yannick and one of the other scientists go off to the relay station, which has stopped transmitting data, and that's why the alarm was going off. And it's very important that they get these things working because they are going to be visited by one of the ministers of ecology or something like that. They are up in the Austrian Alps studying this glacier, which has been receding, and all of the different things that are happening. In fact, it starts out, the nice title screen crawl. And the first line is, "In 2014, the last skeptics fell silent." Well, apparently they really didn't, but nice try. This was filmed in 2013, by the way.
Okay.
But it kind of sets up this whole doom and gloom. This is all global warming. It's the environment, and they see a giant red stain, which is a little overblown on the poster, but you had a good picture of it that was coming up, I think, in the next 2 or 3 pictures, which kind of leads into a cave. The dog, Tinny, goes into the cave.
I figured the cave was just on its menstrual cycle.
Well, it disappears after like a day, so that could be the case.
Okay.
Tinny goes in. There's a rabid fox there. We see some kind of like growth thing exploding out of his side, and Tinny yelps, and you're thinking, God damn it, they got the dog. I knew that chocolate lab wasn't going to make it.
It's just funny. I saw the title card that says, the station, and it says 3 scientists, 1 technician, 1 dog. That was a really funny title card.
And can you figure out which ones are going to survive? And then they actually add to that because the minister has her own private bodyguard, some old dude that's with them, and some press people to kind of up the body count.
Okay.
The main premise of this is that the ice has receded, these microbes have been let out, and some wacky science stuff happens.
Science!
Just wacky science stuff where if something ingests the snow melt, these microbes get into their system and they combine with anything else that's in that animal's gut and kind of mutate it. So the first things you see are like really creepy bug things, almost like a giant cockroach, to go back to Tracy's.
Yes,
Tracy's one. And it turns out it's actually like a woodlouse, but the size of like a medium-sized dog.
Whoa.
And what else was there?
How are the effects? I had a hard time telling from the stills.
The effects are not Rob Bottin worthy, but they are practical. Okay. Some of them are amazing. The bugs look really good.
Okay.
There's some mosquito things that attack people that look really good. There are some that are extremely laughable. There's a bird with these weird, like, spiky talon things that, it attacks the person, and it's that 50s, 60s thing where you can tell the person is just holding on to the puppet.
Yeah, and it's like Rod Hull and Emu going at it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There is a mutant ibex, which is shot completely at night and actually looks kind of terrifying. Okay. And I think if you turned a spotlight on it, you'd go, no. But the way it's shot actually looks really good.
Cool.
It's kind of a middle-of-the-road film. You've got the scientists who, despite the fact that there's obviously something going on that's mutating all these creatures which are now attacking them, don't call the minister and say, hey, don't bring your press junket up here.
Get on up.
they don't want to ruin that, and plus they don't want the press to find out about their discovery because, you know, it's brand new science. We're going to be famous from the brand new science, as opposed to, you know, having half a brain and going, this is going to get us all killed.
Well, but something
The
you
note
said
that I had is
earlier.
amazing discovery trumps everything.
There's something you said earlier, though. Don't they get this thing by ingesting the snow? Doesn't anybody know if you see red, yellow, anything, any snow not white? You don't put it in your mouth, kids.
That's the initial vector. The snow is your patient zero, but then it kind of transfers almost like a zombie bite. So the guy that gets bit by a giant mosquito is the one that you see with his face half melted off here, and
What
he's
did the
got
mosquito?
bugs that come out of him.
Did
The
the
mosquito
eat
fed
this?
on one of the other animals that he had eaten the snow melt. It's a big chain.
Oh, okay. So an animal
Link it
went
chain
and licked this thing.
weirder mutations. For example, the ibex I talked about actually has like wings too, like insect wings. So it must have been infected by one of those mosquitoes.
Okay, all right. 'Cause I'm sitting there and I'm like, why would these scientists be sitting there licking a snowbank? This
You
just
never
doesn't
know.
make sense.
What else are you going to do up at a research station in the Austrian Alps? You know, there's, hey, cherry Kool-Aid, it's free.
Okay.
Some of the dub acting, and I don't know,
Uh-oh.
you can't pin it on the actors,
Mhm.
but whoever dubbed Tanya, who is with the ecology minister, and is of course Yannick's ex,
Of course.
and there's a drop reveal in there too. I'm like, okay, didn't see that coming. Don't know we needed that plot point. Oh, I see how it ties in at the end. Okay, I won't go into that in case anyone wants to watch it, because it is a real like, oh shit moment when between the two of them. But whoever dubbed her was awful, just terrible. Just completely flat delivery the entire time, no matter what's going on, and it really drew me out of the film. The characters make some questionable choices too. Like I said, the drop dead ending I have in all caps that went like a line and a half on my notes that just say, what the serious fuck? Because there is something that happens at the end in the denouement where I was like, okay, I totally didn't see that happening, but given the logic of the film, that actually makes sense with everything that they've discussed so far. It's not like something that's out of left field and doesn't make sense. You can see how that went. And I was like, wow, I hope I never have to see something like that again.
That's awesome.
Which is not what I'd say about the movie, though.
Okay.
Would I watch it again? With the right group of people, maybe getting drunk.
Okay, so
in your drinking game.
It is a drinking game.
I'm taking that as you want to move into grading. So
Good call.
Here we go. Report card.
I went back and forth on this one. I'm personally going to give it a B-. I think most people would give it a solid C, but for the kind of fun camp value, and if you go in there not expecting a highbrow film, you're going to enjoy this. If you go in there like really wanting to be scared, you're probably going to be a little annoyed.
You're going to be a little underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, I never am looking to be taught anything when I watch a horror movie. I don't understand this whole elevated horror thing. Makes me want to gag. All right, so it's time now for my movie, and let's remind me what my movie is. There it is. When Michael Calls, made in 1972. I cannot tell you how long I've been wondering about this movie. I must have seen the commercials about it and been creeped out. But I'm doing the math that this was a TV movie that came out in 1972.
Hey, is that Michael Douglas?
It sure is. This was
Holy.
February 5th, 1972. It was an ABC movie of the week. And you do get Michael Douglas in here. You have Ben Gazzara is in here. Because he had just finished his great work with Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, and thought, okay, now let's do something classy. This is a movie, first of all, I've wanted to see forever because it had one of the creepiest commercials. And I remember seeing this creepy commercial, and it was like a kid in a rain slicker, and it's like, when Michael calls. And I will tell you, every time that Michael, not you, every time that Michael calls, it's like this little kid's voice, and it's like, "Dear Auntie Balrani, I'm all alone and I'm scared." And I don't know what it is, but whoever that kid voice actor was, which was probably an adult pretending to be a kid, but that was the creepiest stuff I've heard in a long time. So, like, when the phone rings, at least there is an alternate title for this one too, called Shattered Silence. That's a terrible name. When Michael calls is a great name because literally the best scenes are all with her and that phone up to her head. The rest of the movie, extremely forgettable. It's from a novel by a writer that did mostly Southern Gothic type of novels, John Ferris. He's probably best known for The Fury, which also got made into a movie. The screenplay is more interesting to me because it's done by James Bridges. And he was a writer-director. He did The Paper Chase, China Syndrome, and Urban Cowboy. And when I did the research on this, which of course meant IMDb, and I look and I'm like, I'm surprised that the same writer did those three movies, let alone When Michael Calls. Because When Michael Calls, I'm like, okay, that's an adaptation for hire type gig, whatever. But The Paper Chase, then China Syndrome, then Urban Cowboy. I'm like, those are really different type of feel movies. So I was surprised by that. Now, the director is a TV director by the name of Philip Leacock. I'm not making that name up. That's his actual name. It feels like a TV movie director made it. I mean, it feels like you could swap out some characters here and it would fall into any police procedural that was being aired in the day. Now, Elizabeth Ashley is the young woman that you see in all these pictures that we have going here. I was sitting there and I'm going, I'm not sure I know this woman at all. Her only other big credit that I saw was she was a regular on the TV show Evening Shade, and that was fully two and a half decades later as this movie. Now, the movie is creepy. It's the titular character of Michael is the younger brother of one of the other characters in this, and he has died under mysterious circumstances, and now he's calling up, and when he calls this our main character here, soon thereafter somebody dies every time, like clockwork. One of them is death by bee, where and here's the thing, a bee attack is a pretty neat visual hook, and I swear they filmed it in the most boring way that you could think of to film a bee attack. The guy is, first of all, he's he's a beekeeper, so he knows how to deal with bees. He's sitting in like what appears to be a small garage that has 3 or 4 beehives there. He is not wearing any any beekeeper gear, you know, the hazmat suit looking thing. No, he's like in shirt sleeves and jeans. And he's sitting there and okay, that was supposed to be muted. And
and he was attacked by Prince.
It was. Wow. But he's sitting there and he puts some chloroform into the beehive and the bees start to swarm. But they swarm in such a way where you're like, did they even find a beekeeper to help wrangle these things? Because all they really did was zoom in on the beehive where there's lots of bees milling about. And they have some things kind of flying around and he's doing this, you know. And that was it. That was the kill. And I'm like, there are so many interesting ways you could shoot this to make it scary. And they just kind of threw it out there. The other deaths are equally not interestingly staged. They just kind of occur. And like, here you go. We're going to have this murder now. Everybody get ready. Okay, now they're murdered. And because this is, I would say, in the realm of horror movie like Scream, where it doesn't quite know if it's a horror movie or a whodunit, it kind of falls in that range. You pretty early on are already starting to think, I don't think this is paranormal. I don't, because the calls from the dead, you would go, oh, that probably is bad. And you figure out pretty early that somebody's just screwing with this woman and making prank phone calls. For all you know, it's Bart Simpson calling up Moe's Tavern on this thing. So, they strongly push you toward, there's like, Michael Douglas is, I couldn't quite tell if he was like the principal or the lead person at a home for troubled boys. Okay, so they're all like, oh, it's a young boy that's calling. It's got to be one of these kids. And Michael Douglas, I swear, his only job in the movie is to continually say, those kids aren't all bad. They're good kids. They stay in the school. They don't go around killing people with bees. You know, it's like, it's kind of stilted. I think they probably could have made a good 1 hour episode of something out of this movie. They went on for 2 hours, which was a mistake. There just wasn't enough meat there to put this thing together. So I'm going to go to the grading. I think you can probably figure out this is not going to be one of my higher grades. It's a D. It is interesting to see your early Michael Douglas. That's always something that's kind of interesting to see. Big celebrities before they were big celebrities, though he was probably already doing Streets of San Francisco by this time. But it just doesn't pop. You know what I mean?
Do you think that might have something to do with the fact it was a made-for-TV thing in the 70s? Is that why
So was Trilogy of Terror. You know, I point that out, and Don't Look in the Basement, and Gargoyles. Actually, I'll say I believe there were better TV movies made back in the 70s than some of these, okay, I say this all the time. When on Netflix, they say, this is the top watched show on Netflix. I feel like that's a warning label. Because, you know, Peggy, when she was recommending Squid Game, I'm like, this is another one of these that's going to bite me in the ass. I'm not going to watch this damn thing because it's going to be about hockey or something. They're going to throw a squid out on the ice, and this is going to be it, And it turned out that it was not that. And it was actually, I was thanking Peggy before the show. I really enjoyed that TV series. That is literally one of maybe 3 things that I've watched on Netflix that was getting real uber hype, and I actually enjoyed. I think Extraction was one of the other ones, and I forget the third. But there really haven't been a whole lot of these Netflix things because they make them with nobody actors that you haven't heard of, and they just churn them out. And Netflix, because they paid for the damn thing, they're like, oh, we better put out a press release. This is the top movie. And they make it so that if you don't hit the next button in time after you watch the Rockford Files, it plops you right in there, and on you go. So I feel it should be a warning label. It's kind of like back in the 80s when you started up a VHS tape and you saw the Full Moon Video logo. You kind of had to sit there and you go, okay, pause the tape. I have to adjust my expectations. Lower. Okay, now I'm ready to watch, Dollman versus Demonic Toys or whatever the hell they were making that week. So,
Except
what?
maybe back then it wasn't just VHS tapes. Maybe some people didn't have a VHS. They had Betamax.
No, Beta never really did that much in the video stores, and I can say that because I practically
they
lived
were
in
out
those
by
places. I actually, in my college days, there was I didn't go to Blockbuster that much because I had a friend that owned the local video store, so I got to watch the video store demise from the front row. And it was interesting because I would sit there and watch these horrible R-rated movies out on their big screen. He had a big back projection screen back when a lot of people didn't. And I'd just pop it into VHS and we'd sit there and watch this thing. And because he owned the place, nobody was going to yell at us. We just sit there and eat popcorn and watch. It was not a family friendly sort of affair. And this is like 2:30 on a Thursday. We're watching this garbage. But most of it was, in fact, garbage. It was made for video type stuff. All right, it's time for Hype Train. Here we go. Come on, there we go. Remind everybody that, yes, there is a beautiful website that we have with lots of stuff always going on out there. Right now, it's telling you to go and watch our show. So please, go and watch our shows. We have another show coming up later this week, Dead on the Bases, on Thursday night. Okay, we'll start with... Come on, I pressed the button. There it comes. Peggy is themonkeyisin.com is her website. Do you have anything you'd like to pitch about The Monkey Is In right now, Peggy?
I don't have anything new at this point, but I am going to be making an appearance on Saturday with my writers group, Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers. They're going to do the first convention of the season out in Jackson, Michigan, for Blood Bash. So I'm going to be doing that.
That's cool. Now, do you guys have a secret hand signal that you give each other? Because
not that we can tell you, duh.
Okay.
First of all, dumb question, because of course we don't.
Why not? You need that. You need that. We'll work something out for you. Okay. And to split up Peggy and Mike, we're going to put Tracy in here now. Tracy, you got your website, and I am also putting your IMDb page out in the chat. I want to remind people it's very important for you to click Tracy's IMDb page probably 3 or 4 times a day. It's a good thing. It gets her numbers up, and people that are putting together their movies, They look at those IMDb stats. So make sure you're clicking that about 4 or 5, maybe even 35 times a day. So, Tracy, anything do you want to tell people about some of the projects you've been working on?
I just worked on a project in LA called Alone Today. It's from a first female director. Her name is Wendy Wilkins, and I'm just really excited for her to have it out.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
although the web's still under construction, Tim.
Okay.
That'll be a while.
All right. So just click the IMDb page like 3 more times a day then. All right. And Mike, tell us what's going on at thedragonsroost.net.
We've got a couple books that will be coming out this spring. I'm not going to go into any detail just yet because they're still under construction. We are already in the swing of things. We've already done our first convention back in January. Don't have anything in February, but I've got a couple coming up in March, including Horror Realm in Pittsburgh and Motor City Legacy in Romulus, Michigan.
All right. And speaking of Horror Realm, that is coming in 24 days. And as you know, a couple of our panelists are very involved at horrorrealmcon.com. Including, I'm going to lay this down. I am actually going to be one of the panel interviewers for the Fright Night reunion that is going on there.
Congratulations, Tim.
And I am going to interview David Naughton, who was the star of American Werewolf in London, but probably is best known as the first person that sang the Dr. Pepper song. He is not going to be happy that he's getting interviewed by a TV nerd like me that will bring up that he sang the hit tune Making It in the disco era. So that is going to happen for certain. And Dead on the Bases coming up on Thursday. As you know, we review on Dead on the Bases 1 sports film and 1 horror film. This week we'll be doing Freaky from 2021 with Vince Vaughn. Kind of Freaky Friday equals mixed with Scream is what I would call this one. It's a fun movie. And because it's the Olympics, we watched Kurt Russell in Miracle. And we'll be talking about that one as well. So it's really going to be a pretty fun show on Thursday, despite Jeff told me he is coming. So it's going to be fun anyway. Oh, he isn't in. If he was in the chat, he'd be going nuclear right now. It'd be awesome. No, he's really excited about Freaky. I've gotten probably 15 or 16 texts that he's like, I'm really looking forward to the show, which means he's going to be amped up. Because usually he comes in, he's kind of subdued.
When are you going to get to see The Exorcist? I'd like to see that.
Yeah, we really want to. I'll tell you, Tracy, I sat next to him when we saw the new Scream movie. We went to the movie house to actually watch that thing.
Yeah.
And he told me, I wasn't really that scared. But he was moving so much in his seat. I thought they should have just put in a treadmill for the guy. He was just, and he was talking back to the screen. I was like, dude, you're on the white side of town. What are you doing around here? I couldn't believe it. He was just yelling at the screen. Don't go in there. Don't go in there. You're going to get killed.
Oh, no. Lord,
but you know what? It was a lot of fun. Because most people paid $15 and saw Scream 5. I paid $15. I watched Scream 5 and the sideshow going on right over here. It was entertaining throughout. It was a lot of fun. All right. So again, remember you can find everything at otherworldlyculture.com, and we'll link to all these other things will be out there as well. We want to remind you to check out our YouTube page and check out our other videos as well. Want to thank all of our panelists who did fantastic work, and Peggy, thank you for waving me off of a movie I was almost certain to watch for two reasons.
I can say one person, Tim. That's all.
Two,
I
Peggy.
can just say one person.
He's still gonna watch it for Barbie Benton.
No, I'm gonna just find
Just watch
the
that.
clip.
Just watch that part.
Yeah,
Just that one.
I'm definitely
You're good.
still gonna go find a clip. That's not a problem. There are ways to get these things, but I don't need to watch 2 hours of this.
Yeah,
So
you do not.
I'm looking forward to that. And Tracy, one more good review for The Ritual, so that's gonna move up the queue. Mike, I'm still not sure about yours. But I think you gave it kind of a mediocre.
America for the next
He kind of
one.
gave me a mediocre, so I'm like, that's where it should be. It kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna watch this thing yet. I do like the poster. Unfortunately,
Which of the 15 posters?
the thing is, one of the next movies I'm watching is a documentary called 24 by 36. I can't wait to watch it. It's about movie posters. And I love how people are like, oh, movie posters don't matter at all anymore. Nobody goes to the movie house. And I'm like, that's a pile of crap. Because I don't know about you, but if you're going through Netflix, you're going through Amazon or anything like that, if that little still image that they have looks like garbage, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. There's no way you're going to stop and watch that thing. So I think that's actually become more important. And of course, I'm watching this documentary because I'm waiting for the moment where they declare Jaws the greatest, movie poster of all time, which it is.
No.
In case you didn't know that. Yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. And remember, when you aim at horror, make sure you are dead on. See you next time here on Dead On Movie Reviews. Otherworldlyculture.com. It's nice to see all the panelists working that chat. You knew there'd be a lot of typing when we invite writers.
You're funny.